Hello, hello, hello out there in Radio Land. This is the Master Communicator, and you are listening to Author Central Station on Afro Vibes Radio Worldwide. And the beautiful thing about being a worldwide internet radio station is simply this: the world is listening to us. And we are thrilled beyond thrilled here on Author Central Station to have Bobby G with us, the
Hello.
author.
Thank you.
Fuego. Wow, it's taken me a couple of times to get it right, but I
got it.
right.
You got it. It's fuego. Perfection, actually.
Yes, thank you, sweetie. So now let me tell you a little bit about Miss Bobby G. She is a native Houstonian with a knack for elaborate storytelling, making people laugh and talking more than she should. Thankfully, she found a creative home in writing thriller novels. Post-graduating the University of Houston, she commenced her career as a marketing writer. Go girl! And went on to fulfill a variety of other obscure roles before deciding to dedicate herself to her first love, writing. Ooh, you're at the right place, Author Central
Right,
Station.
I love it.
Bobby G is passionate about investing into her community, advocating consciousness, and empowering her people. Fuego is her debut.
Yes.
Debut novel. Very good. So, I mean, you know who she is. Now, I want you to tell me who you are. What would your best friend say to describe you? I want to know the good, the bad, and the dirty.
The dirty. My friends, my closest and furthest friends would talk about how funny I am, how witty I am. I think if you take anything away from an experience with me, you'll say she has a quick wit.
Wow.
I'm pretty quick and sharp with the tongue. I'm upbeat most of the time. I would say a smooth 99% of the time. I always try to look for the reason to laugh. Why not laugh? What will stress and worry do for you? They would say I am unfiltered. I don't mind speaking my mind, and it doesn't. I never think it's a poor time to say what's on your mind. I think it's best to get it all out there. And they'll probably say how loud I am. You know me when I walk in a room.
Well, that's okay. I mean, if you got something to say, baby, you need to be loud.
Right, now usually it's something to say. That's my
Yeah. So show them the book cover, because I want you to tell them the story behind this awesome book cover.
So, Fuego, okay, and so my man right here on the cover, this is a real life boy. I know him personally, and as I was finishing, I had already finished the story, and I was creating, I'm also do graphic design, and so I created this cover. I was intending to create my cover, and I'm like, who can I get to model for me? Because I'm also doing this on a budget at the time, right? And so I look over to my left in my cubicle, and I'm like, oh, there he is. There's my leading man. And so Jeff is his name. Jeff, would you be my cover model? And he agreed, and he sent me over a selfie from his iPhone, and then I just doctored that up a little bit, and there is my cover.
Wow. And people have a tendency to, call you when you're doing a radio show. But people have a tendency to think that it takes a lot of energy to come up with a book cover. I've been doing a little studying, because I'm working more with my authors to create a personalized or customized book cover. But you just have to know innately what it is that you want. And then if it doesn't work, design-wise, just modify.
Exactly.
Back away, come back again, and most of the time you come back with something great.
Even this went through a few takes, and so I got with a graphic design. He is a visual master. I got with a friend of mine, Torrey Jones, and he simplified my font because at first I had Fuego, and like all of the smoke wasn't even looking like smoke, it looked like fiery smoke. I just got too creative. I went everywhere with it, and so it was a lot of oranges and yellows and everything, and Fuego had fire in the center of the words, and there was just a lot going on. And so through some suggestions and just us collaborating, we simplified the font, we put more focus on Oscar's face, that's who he is. We put more cover on my lead's face, and I'm sorry, we simplified it so we could bring more attention to his face, and then smoke in the air, which has something to do with the story itself. And another suggestion was someone gave the suggestion for me to tell the story in the cover as best I could, and so he's from Cuba. I put the beach in the background, which also has significance in the story. Like I said, the smoke has significance in the story, and so it just all kind of came together through a little bit of creative inspiration and team playing, and we have my cover.
The team makes the dream
They
work.
do. You got to know your tribe, man. You got to know your tribe.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you can't be shy when you're a writer, because everybody can be, a part of the dream team.
That's actually that's my end game. I want this to be kind of an inclusive experience. So what I have actually going on now, just sidebar, I have a scribe series, right? And so it should unfold in about 10 or 15 episodes. I'm still creating, and so this could be more, I could expand it, as I go. But the idea, I post on my Facebook page to throw out some character names. And then if you want to be featured in the story, let me know, give me your own name. And so what I've done is take those characters, created a story around them, and so now people that know me personally or just have heard of me, they get to be a part of this, Bobby G universe.
Oh,
so I love including people in my story.
Wow. Well, if you ever need a motherly figure, Miss Jenkins is
Yes.
because I love participating in stuff.
It's fun, right?
It is. Now let's take a few minutes and let's delve into this storyline.
Right.
Tell us about the title, why you picked it, and tell us a little bit about your main character.
So Fuego had so many facelifts, right? It went through so many changes and amendments, and so originally, I think it was called Cold Revenge, right? And I was just trying to get something kind of heart-wrenching or something that will pull at you, and the story was completely different. And so when I originally started the story, I was a senior in high school and was bored, and it was a journalism class, and it was like the end of the school year, so senioritis had kicked in, and I said, I'm going to write a book. And so I wanted to write a story to counter other novels I've read where the woman, she is a strong heroine in the story. She's a strong female lead, but not making the best decisions. And some of those, in some of those decisions, her significant other would would get caught in the crossfires, right? In her trying to find herself. And I wasn't seeing a realistic depiction of black men. And so I decided to write the story from a male perspective and how I felt like. So my main goal is always to be honest in any of my writing, no matter how gritty or ugly it is, to say like how would a man really react to being cheated on or any sort of adversity? How do our men really deal with our struggles? And so I wanted to explore that. I did a lot of research before this became a final product. I did so many surveys and just asked group discussions from men around the age of my character, trying to find out how do we really think, and wanting to penetrate that. And so I then created Oscar del Fuego, and he had several different names before he became Oscar del Fuego. And he's a celebrity, an Afro-Cuban celebrity chef, and so kind of plucked out of Cuba, ends up in the States illegally, and without anybody really knowing he's in it, right? That's the goal. He comes to the States over some shady business, and he makes a name for himself as a celebrity chef. And so he's able to tuck away all his skeletons, and he's been doing that for years until he gets into a near fatal car accident, which then triggers everything that he thought he left in the past, because he figures out that someone's actually trying to kill him. And so he now is on a search for this person that he thought he left, these demons that he thought he buried, and he's trying to shut all that down, stifle it all before it kind of blows up in his face and it ruins his celebrity.
Wow. Now, listening audience, let me tell you something. Bobby G is a serious writer. Now, I'm
so goofy in real life, but like writing, I get down to business.
Well, I don't hear very many authors talk about the research that is associated with building a storyline. And here you are coming and giving people a realistic look at what takes place in a great novel. It's more than having an idea and putting that idea on paper. You need to make sure that everything is synchronized, and you've done a great job of that.
See, so I don't normally stand on any sort of high horse or speak emphatically about like, oh, this is what you need to be doing. You know, I don't have a 10 steps to do anything. But I will say, for any great book, so whether you're writing fiction or nonfiction, you have to do your research. And I think maybe that may miss some fiction authors, like, oh, or fiction writers, like, oh, you know, it's a made-up story. How much research goes into a made-up story? But it matters, especially if you're not a sci-fi. No, you know what? No, it matters across the board. It matters. And so when you are talking about a city, you need to know that city. You know, don't just Google it and say, you know, there's a Starbucks here, or there's this place that has good Yelp reviews, so I'll give it a mention. Like, no, is this a place? What kind of people frequent this place? Because if you're going to be talking about it and the people there, it has to be authentic. And so, like, anytime I read something about Houston, or I see a movie and they'll place it in Galveston, it'll be this beautiful beach, I'm like, that is not, you didn't go to Galveston, nor did you do your research about Galveston. And then it just takes away from the story. So it's really important.
From the truth.
It does. And that's, like I said, the truth is, it's why I write. It's how I release. It's why I stay smiling is because I can put everything in a book. I can put everything into these characters, or I can kind of journalize it of sorts. Like pieces of me are all throughout this book, and you would have to really, really know my story to find me in this. But this is absolutely 100% me, and so it was important to me for me to have all the authenticity I could bring.
So he was in a car. Oscar.
Yes.
Was in a car accident.
Yes.
Which kind of triggers all of this stuff he's been holding on the inside of himself.
Right.
Okay, so what happens after that? So, and I know you're not going to be able to tell the entire story.
Not too much.
But we want to tell you enough to understand what it is when you have a master writer, master craftsman sitting at the helm, what it takes to write a good novel, the kind of novel that makes people go, and crosses all kind of color lines, all kind of cultural lines. So have at it.
Yes, ma'am. So with Oscar, or I'm sorry, with the writing of Fuego, I talk a lot about, or delves into mental illness, and so that's I think that's what I do across the board. With I kind of found my niche in that, wanting to talk about Black people and mental issues, right? And it's because I think it's something that we kind of shy away from that discussion still. So that car accident triggers his PTSD, really. And so he is now really on he's dealing with these hallucinations and his paranoia and his just the voices he hears in his head. It's a lot of going on for him, and he's kind of having a hard time discerning reality from his imagination. And it's one of those moments where he squares up. Now he knows in his gut, like, no, this is it. This is what I have been spending the past 20 years, of my life running away from. And it's finally found me. You can't avoid the inevitable. You can't do what Oscar did and think that you just get to live the rest of your life, especially in abundance the way he has. And so he's really dealing with his guilt. He's dealing with his fear, and then also not having anyone to tell this to, any way to channel it, because everyone knows him as the good guy, you know, and he's pure and he's sweet and he's charming, and he's a celebrity, and so there's you can't mess that up. It's too much online for him, and so he's really trying to he's just internalizing everything, and it's about to just spill out,
Wow.
blow up.
Wow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, Bobby G is going to give us another segment or slice of this intriguing story. And I just want to thank you for tuning in today. We know
Yes, thank you.
that Author Central Station, you know, it's a voice for authors all over the world. So, you know, it's very important to us, and so we try to bring in people from different genres, all kinds of different kinds of people, so that you can get a perspective that we are a universe, a writing universe. So we will be back in a few minutes, and this is Author Central Station. Sharon C. Jenkins, the Master Communicator, and I am at Afro Vibes Radio Worldwide. We'll be right back.
Your favorite radio station. This is Afro Vibes Radio Houston.
Hello, hello, hello out there. This is the Master Communicator, Sharon C. Jenkins with Author Central Station. And we are on Afro Vibes Radio Worldwide. And one of the things that I want to remind you of is the fact that writers are a community of people. There's not this segment here, and there's not that segment. The thing that binds us together is our passion for the written word. So that's why we love Author Central Station on Afro Vibes Radio. We're in 178 countries. And if you have a writer's voice and you want that voice to be heard internationally, this is the place for you to come. So we're in the 4th largest city in the United States of America, Houston, Texas. And it is the most diverse city in the United States of America. So you might just see anything or anybody coming up in here. And that's the beauty of this station. We love authors. And guess what? We are madly in love with Bobby G and this Fuego book and Oscar and his mental health issues and all this research he did with black men. Woo! Girl.
Which was a lot of fun, like in so many different ways, because it's almost like oh, we get a chance, you know, I think they love being handed the mic. And so like, hey, you just go off of what you're feeling and you tell me everything that you think and feel about this issue, and I'm just going to listen and take notes. Go for it. And then they went for it. It was awesome.
Wow. Ooh, to be a fly on the wall in that conversation. So Miss Bobby G is a writer.
Yes.
WRITER in capital letters. And if you are just tuning in now, she's written this sensational book called Fuego. And we just want to share it with you. It's got this absolutely drop-dead handsome Cuban man on the front. And Fuego in red letters and smoke coming up. And whoo, you're missing it, baby. You need to go check it out. Is it on Amazon?
It is on Amazon and iBooks and everywhere else online where you can purchase a book. So, including my website, www.write. I feel so old. You'll understand how I feel like I aged myself because I say www. I wish I could stop, but I can't. So, right on BobbyG.com. That's WRITE, Bobby with an I, G.com.
Very good, very good. So tell us a little more about Oscar and this wrestling he has with those demons from his past.
So the idea of the smoke on my cover is where there's smoke, there's fire. And this is to be followed up with a sequel, Inferno, which I'm wrapping up right now. And so I'm so excited to release that. I don't want to give it an official release date, but it is not far behind. You should be able to have it on a plane with you this summer as you vacation. So yeah, while there's smoke, there's fire. And he is dealing with a lot in his life. And he's not just at a crossroad. Like, there's a lot of decisions he needs to make really fast. And I'm not in the shot. My bad, people. I'm trying to be close to the mic and also in the shot and not too far away.
Just move the mic closer to you,
just
baby.
Move the mic. Okay,
yeah,
look at 2018.
Pull it.
Look at 2018. Just me trying not to break stuff.
You're doing good. You're doing good.
But I can't afford to replace
There you go. You're good, girl.
So he's having to make a lot of decisions, and it's overwhelming him. He has a wife who is 12 years his junior, and he's madly in love with her, but it seems they've reached a point where she's not madly in love with him. And it's everyone, no one's supporting this relationship from the get-go. It was this thing where like, oh, she's after your money, and you can't see the forest for the trees. And he's no, this is for me. And he loves being in love. He's the good guy, and that's what it was important for me to create this man, a gentleman that women could root for. Because when I was thinking of this book, I wanted to create a piece where women would respond to it. So men have greatly responded to it, and they loved how both men, Oscar is my main character, his best friend is kind of the supporting character, his best friend Jackson Broderick, who is just as successful as he is, but completely different demeanor and attitude and outlook on life. And so it's his whole supporting cast, no one has faith in his marriage. And then he's already suffering from his own personal paranoia, and then not to help that everyone is saying, hey, you also should be watchful of your wife, who you shouldn't trust this person either. So he feels like he's steadily losing people that are important to him. And so he finds that's definitely a reason to be suspicious. At the same time, his ex-wife pops back into his life because of this car accident. She comes into town to check on him because they still have a good relationship. That was also important to me, to not write exes happen. You can get married, you do end up splitting. Not everybody has to have a tumultuous relationship with their ex and the person they have a child with. And so I wrote them as kind of still co-parenting cohesively, and they're still a good team. And so you also find yourself rooting for Oscar and his ex-wife more than you're rooting for Oscar and his wife, and which was also just fun to play with. And so anyways, all that to say, he's battling with so much in his life, and he's just trying to get his team together, like who really is in support of him and who's not. He's trying to figure that out because it's important. He's kind of going into battle in a sense. And while he's trying to figure that out, he's also trying to figure himself out and having to face the truth for the first time in his life.
So sound like Oscar is a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of person.
Kind of on accident. He doesn't want to be. He wants to be the good guy that everyone sees. He's put so much effort into it. Like his friend Jackson has no problem being a jerk. He's embraced it and he loves it, and that's the me in this book also, just saying exactly what's on my mind. And with he has less concern than I do. I do care how I make you feel. Jackson has, he cares nothing about how he makes someone feel, because he feels that honesty is the best policy, and at least you know what you're dealing with when you have them. And so you can't complain. He came in, completely unfiltered and unadulterated. And so I forgot, I'm just rambling and I forgot the question.
Oh no, you're doing good. You're telling me about good old Oscar and his battle with his wife, who he probably robbed the cradle when he made that selection.
You asked Dr. Jekyll.
Oh yes,
right. And so
Dr.
he's not
Jekyll
intending to be that. It's
Mr.
because he's not dealing with the truth, and that's what happens. And so a lot of thought went into developing this novel, and so I wanted a thinking piece, and I wanted people to consider the consequences of internalizing everything. I think in the process of me writing this, I matured a lot, and it sounds so corny and cliche, I found myself while writing this book.
If it's your truth, it's
it is
real.
My truth, and I'm gonna walk in my
baby.
truth, baby.
Wear the t-shirt.
And so just discovering the ramifications of keeping everything to yourself and feeling like there's no place to turn to, and knowing how that kind of erodes or corrodes your spirit, right? And so I wanted to put that on ink and give a visual kind of, or some imagery around it, to say, this is, like, look what we're doing to ourselves. Look what happens when you don't speak out, and how that torments you, and how it then kind of injects, it infects the rest of your life, and so he's not able to have a healthy relationship like he wants to. He wants to be a wonderful son and a wonderful role model and father and husband. He's trying to do all these things, but he's dealing with this inner turmoil, and it's infecting everything.
PTSD.
Yes.
And people think that PTSD is something that people in the military only experience,
Right,
but
yeah.
PTSD comes from trauma
Exactly.
in your life at any part of your life.
Exactly.
And you need to get a greater understanding of the fact that if you've experienced some trauma, you need to get some healing.
Exactly.
And it sounds like Oscar just kind of went from that phase of being broken into another place. So
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about his transition, because he's got to come back and pick up that stuff and deal with it.
Exactly. So he was able, after being plucked out of the negative situation and really entering another negative spot, so he kind of had a very humble beginnings. And then those humble beginnings, like a lot of us, it motivates us to want to do better and have a better lifestyle. And so he found his craft was cooking, and that he could, and he's like, I'm going to use my face and my and my skill set and make it work for me, and it did. And so as he is gaining celebrity and his wealth and all of that, he's like, okay, I think I'm in a good spot. And we do that very often, thinking that, hey, my life is seemingly, the conditions of my life are seemingly better, so I must be better. I have a better job now, so obviously I'm healed from this bad breakup even, or I'm healed from whatever rejection or neglect I may have faced in the past. Like, there's nothing for me to face anymore. Or if you've battled any sort of substance abuse, or addiction, like, oh, okay, I'm not in this environment that made me want to drink or do whatever, and so I'm fine now. Everything's better. And then you're hit with something, and so Oscar literally being hit with a car, you're hit with something, and it triggers everything that you thought you had already dealt with, or that you thought would just kind of faded away and fell off your back. You realize it's right there, and you may not want to deal with it, but it wants to deal with you.
Wow. Well, you know what? This time has gone by too fast. We're going to have you come back.
I told you I talk so much.
We are having so much fun. And what I want to do is make sure I have you come back when you are ready to talk a little bit about, is it Inferno?
Inferno, yes. I'm ready to talk about Inferno. Yes, we will talk about Inferno. Because where there's smoke, there's fire, and then it all blows up in part 2.
Wow.